She was pregnant for 99 months. Long before Emeka met Ngozi, his life was shaped by the fact that he was the only son of his parents, Paokari and Mama Ifunanya. In Igbo tradition, the only son carries the weight of legacy. To keep the family name alive, to inherit the land, to raise children who will pour libations for their forefathers. From the time Emeka was a boy, his parents never let him forget this. Whenever his father sat in the compound chewing cola, he would look at him and say, "NWAM, remember, you are the pillar of this family. Without you, our name dies." His mother was more direct. Each time she pounded yam and he came back from tapping palm wine, she would drop her pestle, wipe her sweat, and sigh, "Emeka, my son, you must settle down on time. I will not rest until I hear the cry of your children in this compound." A father's fear. Paokari, though strong, was getting older. He would call Emeka in the evenings to sit with him by the lantern. "Look at me. My bones are not as they used to be. If I die today and you have no wife, no child, who will stand for me? Who will carry my staff? Who will inherit the yam barn?" Emeka, young and full of strength, often laughed it off. "Papa, I am still looking. When I find the right woman, I will bring her home." But his father's eyes always clouded with fear. He had buried 4 daughters in marriage, but only one son was left with him. Losing the family line was his greatest dread. The pressure builds. By his mid-20s, the whole village began to murmur. Why has Emeka not married? Is he impotent? Is he waiting for riches first? Every market day, his mother would corner him. "Do you not see how children are running everywhere? Your mates already have 3, 4 children. And me? I am still waiting for my grandchildren." She would even bring him wrappers, saying, "Wear this when you go out. Maybe a good girl will notice you." Emeka loved his parents deeply and did not want to disappoint them. But he also wanted to marry for love, not just for duty. The meeting. It was under this constant pressure that Emeka first saw Ngozi at the riverside, carrying firewood on her head. She was barefoot, her wrapper old, her hair tied carelessly. But her eyes shone with quiet strength. Something in his chest shifted. He told himself, maybe this is the one. She is poor, yes, but she has a spirit stronger than wealth. After that day by the river, when Emeka saw Ngozi with firewood on her head, he began to notice her everywhere. At the market, she sold vegetables with her mother. At the stream, she fetched water with other girls. At the farm, she worked like 3 men put together. Emeka admired her humility, but even more, her resilience. One evening, he greeted her while she was returning from the farm. She smiled politely, wiped the sweat from her brow, and answered softly, "Good evening, Emeka." That simple greeting turned into daily exchanges. Slowly, laughter entered their conversations. He would help her carry her load sometimes, and she would tease him about always smelling of palm wine. The heart opens. Weeks turned into months, and soon Emeka was walking her home more often. At night, he found himself thinking about her. Unlike other girls, Ngozi did not flirt or rush into talk of marriage. She carried herself with quiet dignity. One evening, under the moonlight, Emeka finally spoke. "Ngozi, my heart has chosen you. I want you to be my wife." Ngozi lowered her gaze, her fingers tightening around the mat she was weaving. She was silent for a long moment before she whispered, "Emeka, I am not ready." Her reason. That night, she told him her truth. "All my life, I have seen suffering. My mother broke her back to raise me after my father died. I don't want my children to know that kind of hunger. Before marriage, I want to work, to save, even if it is little. I want to stand on my own feet first. Marriage will come, but I want to give my children a better start." Emeka looked at her, surprised. Most girls in the village were eager to marry quickly, especially to the only son of a respected man. But here was Ngozi, poor as she was, speaking like a queen who carried her destiny with pride. Emeka's patience. He smiled gently. "Ngozi, you already have the heart of a mother, and that is what I love about you. I will wait, even if others are rushing, even if my parents pressure me, I will wait for you." From then, their bond deepened. He would come to her farm to help weed. She would bring food to him after his long day tapping palm wine. Villagers began to whisper about their closeness, but Ngozi held her ground. She would not marry until she felt ready. The turning point. One rainy evening, after they had spent hours talking in her mother's kitchen, Emeka's father called him aside. "Emeka," Pa Okari said sternly, "I see how you follow this girl around. She is good, yes. But remember, you are my only son. Don't let love make you forget your duty. I need to hold my grandchildren before I close my eyes." Emeka bowed his head respectfully. "Papa, I hear you. But this girl is worth the wait." What he did not know was that fate was already weaving a harder, longer wait than any of them could imagine. 2 years passed after Emeka first declared his love for Ngozi. In that time, both of them changed. Emeka became more focused. He expanded his palm wine business, climbing more trees, selling to more traders, and even saving to buy his own gourd pots instead of borrowing. He was still poor, but he had direction. Ngozi too was busy. She started a small trade, selling roasted plantain and groundnut near the village square. Her mother taught her to make soap from palm oil, and she began selling that too. Every little profit she made, she saved in a small wooden box under her mat. Though they weren't married, their friendship was deep, built on respect and shared dreams, not just attraction. Sometimes they would sit together by the stream, talking about their future. "When we marry," Ngozi would say, "I don't want our children to hawk under the sun like I did. I want them to go to school." Emeka would nod. "Then we must work hard now, so we can give them that life." The turning of seasons. The 3rd year came. Life was still hard, but it was better than before. Emeka had built a small mud hut of his own beside his father's compound. Ngozi's business was slowly growing. She could now buy her mother wrappers and help repair their leaking roof. Her neighbors began to say, "That Ngozi, her hands bring blessing." And Emeka's mother, who once frowned at the thought of her son marrying a poor girl, began to soften. She saw how Ngozi respected elders, how she greeted warmly, how she worked without complaint. One afternoon, Mama Ifyinanya visited Ngozi's stall and said gently, "My daughter, I was once poor too. Don't let pride or fear stop you from building with my son. You both have good hearts, and that is the real wealth." Ngozi smiled shyly, her eyes glistening. That night, she couldn't sleep. The decision. Months later, as the dry season ended, Emeka came to see her. He was nervous, holding a calabash of palm wine and wearing his best wrapper. "Ngozi," he began softly, "I know you wanted time, and you have used it well. You've worked hard, and you've made something out of nothing. I'm proud of you, but I'm still here, still waiting. Will you marry me now?" Ngozi looked at him for a long time. Her eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but gratitude. "Yes, Emeka," she said finally, her voice trembling. "Let's build together. Even if we start with little, at least it will be ours." As the seasons changed, the bond between Emeka and Ngozi grew stronger. Though they weren't yet married, their hearts were already joined. He visited her often after the day's work, bringing small gifts, roasted corn, a fresh calabash of palm wine, or even just a bunch of ripe bananas. They sat quietly, both shaken and comforted by what had just happened. From then, their closeness deepened beyond words. The missed period. Weeks passed. Life returned to its rhythm. Ngozi kept working, Emeka kept visiting. But soon, she began to feel weak, dizzy, and sensitive to smells. One morning, while washing clothes by the stream, she suddenly realized she had missed her monthly flow. Her heart pounded. She sat there for a long time, staring at the water, her mind racing between joy and fear. That evening, she told no one, not even her mother. She waited until Emeka came to see her. When he greeted her with his usual cheer, she couldn't even smile properly. "Ngozi, what's wrong?" he asked, worried. She hesitated, then whispered, "Emeka, I think something has happened. I have missed my period." He was silent for a moment, his eyes searching hers. Then he reached for her hand and held it tightly. "Are you sure?" She nodded, fighting tears. "Yes, I didn't tell anyone. Only you." His promise. Emeka pulled her close and said softly, "Ngozi, don't be afraid. Whatever happens, I will stand by you. You are already my wife in my heart. This child will not bring shame. It will bring us closer." Those words settled her trembling heart. That night, she prayed silently, "God, let this child live. Let our love not bring disgrace." From then, their secret became a quiet bond between them, a promise sealed by love and guarded by faith. Weeks turned into a month, and Ngozi's body began to change. Her belly, though still small, no longer looked the same. She tried to hide it by tying her wrapper tighter around her waist, but her mother's sharp eyes were beginning to notice her constant tiredness. Emeka saw the worry in her face each time they met. "Ngozi," he said one evening, "we can't keep this a secret for long. Your parents will soon find out." Tears filled her eyes. "What will I tell them? That I failed them? That I—" He stopped her with a gentle touch on her shoulder. "You did nothing wrong. We love each other, and this child is a gift, not a mistake. I will speak to your father myself. I want to do the right thing, and I will do it now." The visit. 2 days later, Emeka wore his best wrapper and took a gourd of palm wine, along with his uncle, to Ngozi's family home. Her father, old and calm, received them under the mango tree that shaded the compound. After greetings and kola nut rituals, Emeka cleared his throat and spoke with humility. "Papa Ngozi, I have come to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. She is a good woman, and I love her with all my heart. I want to make it official before any other man tries to take her away from me." The old man looked at him for a while, then smiled faintly. "Emeka, I have watched you for years. You are a hard worker. You may not be rich, but you are responsible. If my daughter says yes, who am I to say no?" Ngozi's mother came out quietly, her eyes wide in surprise, but her heart warmed when she saw the sincerity on Emeka's face. She had always feared her daughter might never find a man who truly valued her, but here he was, standing boldly before her husband, ready to take responsibility. The introduction day was small but full of laughter. Emeka's family came with palm wine, dried fish, and a bag of salt, simple gifts to show intention. Ngozi's relatives received them warmly. The elders exchanged blessings, and the two families prayed together, sealing the union in principle. When Emeka looked at Ngozi that day, she smiled shy, relieved, and filled with quiet gratitude. He had kept his word. He had chosen honor over fear. That night, after everyone left, Ngozi sat by her mother, who said softly, "You chose a good man, my daughter. He didn't run away. He stood for you." Ngozi fought back tears, whispering in her heart, "Thank you, God, for giving me someone who did not shame me." The following week, both families began the wedding preparations. There wasn't much money, but everyone contributed in their own little way. The women of the village promised to cook. Emeka's friends gathered palm wine, and Ngozi's cousins began collecting firewood and fetching water for the big day. Mama Ifeanyi sold some of her stored gari to help her son buy wrappers and pay part of the bride price. Pa Okari, proud and moved, said to his wife, "Our son has made us proud. He is doing the right thing like a true man." In the midst of it all, Ngozi tried her best to hide her growing belly. She tied double wrappers and moved slowly, pretending it was just tiredness from the farm. Only Emeka knew the truth, that under those bright fabrics lay the quiet beginning of their child. The day approaches. As the wedding day drew near, the air was filled with both excitement and nervousness. Emeka couldn't wait to call her his wife openly, to lift the burden of secrecy from their hearts. Every night, he would whisper prayers, "Lord, bless our home. Let this child grow strong. Let no shame follow us. Let love cover our mistakes." And Ngozi, resting under the dim light of their oil lamp, would place her hand on her stomach and whisper back, "My child, you will be born into love, not fear." They did not know it yet, but this union, sealed in haste and love, would soon lead to one of the strangest pregnancies their village had ever witnessed. The day of the wedding dawned with the song of birds and the smell of fresh rain on red earth. From early morning, the compound of Ngozi's father was alive with movement. women pounding yam, young men erecting canopies made of palm fronds, and children running around in excitement. Ngozi sat quietly inside the small room she shared with her mother, dressed in her bright yellow wrapper and coral beads. Her heart raced between joy and nervousness. Through the window, she could see Emeka arriving with his people, proud, smiling, carrying palm wine and gifts. Her mother came to her side and placed her hand gently on her shoulder. "My daughter," she said softly, "you are no longer a child. Today you begin your own home. May peace follow you, and may your womb bring laughter." Ngozi swallowed hard, trying to hold back tears. She knew what her mother didn't, that laughter had already begun to stir in her womb. The ceremony. Drums echoed through the air as the ceremony began. Emeka, in a white wrapper with red beads on his neck, stood tall beside his uncle. His eyes searched the crowd until they found Ngozi, radiant, graceful, her smile trembling like candlelight. When it was time for the wine ritual, Ngozi's father handed her the calabash filled with palm wine and said, "Go and find the man your heart chooses." She walked through the crowd, pretending to search, until she stood before Emeka. Everyone cheered as she knelt and offered him the drink. He took it, smiled, and drank, sealing their love before all. The drums grew louder, the women danced, and the men shouted praises. Poor as they were, that day felt like royalty. The first night as husband and wife. When night came, the celebrations ended. The couple returned to the small hut Emeka had built. The lamp burned low as they sat together in silence, both overwhelmed. Ngozi looked at him and whispered, "Thank you for not leaving me." He smiled and took her hand. "How can I leave you, Ngozi? You are my home." That night, they spoke about their future, how they would save, what kind of house they wanted, and how their child would grow in love. It was a humble beginning, but their hearts were full. The first signs of wonder. A strange calm. Weeks passed after the wedding. Ngozi's pregnancy grew as expected. Her belly rounded softly, her skin glowed, and her smile returned. She had not yet told her parents, but her mother noticed and smiled knowingly. "Ah, I knew it," she teased. "You are already carrying joy." Ngozi laughed nervously and nodded. She was happy, finally free from fear. But as months passed, something unusual began to happen. Her body kept changing, but not in the way most pregnancies did. By the 10th month, she had not gone into labor. At first, they thought the date was wrong. Then they thought maybe the baby was just taking time. The local midwife said gently, "Sometimes the child delays. Give it time." But time kept passing. The midwives who attended to her at first told her not to panic. "Sometimes the baby stays a little longer," said Mama Udoka, the oldest among them, her voice calm but her eyes uncertain. So they waited 1 week, then 2. Emeka could hardly sleep. Each morning, he woke before dawn, fetching herbs from the bush or visiting one healer or another, desperate for answers. But every time he returned home, Ngozi was the same, her belly round, her face tired, her steps slow but steady. Local remedies and advice. By the 12th week after her due date, the local midwives gathered in her compound one morning to discuss what to do. They sat on low stools under the mango tree, whispering and shaking their heads. "In the old days," said one of them, "we would give her palm kernel soup to help open her body." "Yes," another added, "or warm water baths, to help the baby move down." They decided to give her light exercises to strengthen her body. Gentle walking every morning, stretching her legs, and bending slowly to pick up small stones. Ngozi obeyed without complaint. Each sunrise, she would walk from her hut to the stream and back, her wrapper tied tightly around her waist, her hands supporting her heavy stomach. Women along the road would watch her pass and whisper, "That poor woman, still waiting." The fruits and the faith. The midwives also encouraged her to eat more fruits and vegetables, pawpaw, garden eggs, and oranges, believing they would help the baby grow strong and come easily. Emeka began traveling to neighboring villages to buy whatever fruits were in season. Even if it cost his last coin, he didn't mind. Every evening, he would bring her a small basket, saying softly, "Eat, my wife. You must be strong for our child. Ngozi would smile weakly, her heart heavy. She had stopped counting days. She only prayed. At night, they lay awake listening to the night insects and the faraway drumming from other compounds celebrating new births. Sometimes, Ngozi would weep quietly. Emeka, everyone I married with has given birth. Some already have 2 or 3. Why is my own different? He would hold her close and whisper, Don't cry, my love. God has not forgotten us. Maybe our child just needs more time. The village's concern. By the 15th month, whispers grew louder. That pregnancy is not normal, said some. Maybe the child is not human, said others. But those who truly loved Ngozi only prayed for her. Her mother, seeing her daughter's suffering, could no longer sleep at night. She went from church to church, from shrine to herbalist, begging for help. But no one could explain what was happening. The village had no clinic, no doctor, no scan machine, nothing that could see what was inside her. The midwives could only wait for nature to take its course. Until she goes into labor, we can't do anything, Mama Udoka said finally. We will just keep watching and praying. The weight of hope. And so they waited. Each passing moon added new fear, yet also a strange calm, as though time itself had slowed for her. Ngozi learned to smile through the worry. She continued her light walks, her fruit meals, and her whispered prayers each night. Sometimes she would place her hand on her belly and feel movement. Small but sure, and it gave her strength to believe that the child was still alive, still growing, still waiting for the appointed time. Emeka, on the other hand, had grown quieter. He no longer laughed easily. He prayed more, spoke less, and watched his wife like a man guarding a priceless treasure. When the time comes, he would say to anyone who asked, Our God will make everything clear. By the time the next planting season came, Ngozi's belly was still full. The yam mounds in the village had sprouted twice since her due date, and yet she remained the same, neither giving birth nor falling ill. Emeka had stopped counting weeks. He marked each passing month by the full moon, hoping that maybe this one would bring labor. But nothing came. The midwives grew quiet. Their advice turned into silence. They had done everything. Herbs, hot compresses, steam baths, and still, her womb refused to open. This is beyond us, said Mama Udoka one afternoon, wiping her brow. I have delivered children for 40 years, but I have never seen anything like this. Faith against fear. Emeka began to travel farther, walking miles to nearby towns to find healers, pastors, even herbal doctors who claimed to understand such mysteries. Some said her child was tied by spirits. Some said the ancestors were delaying the birth for a reason. One even said, Your wife's womb has become a gateway between worlds. The child she carries is not of this time. Emeka didn't know what to believe, but he refused to abandon her. At night, when Ngozi cried in frustration, he would hold her tightly and whisper, You will not die in this. God will remember us, even if the whole world forgets. The villagers' whispers. By the second year, their story had spread beyond Umyuk. Travelers from neighboring villages came just to look at her, to see the woman who had been pregnant for so long. Some dropped gifts and prayers. Others crossed themselves in fear. When she walked through the market, conversations would stop. Some women bowed their heads respectfully. Others turned away, whispering, That is her, the one who carries the endless pregnancy. It pained Ngozi deeply, but she learned to walk with dignity. Her mother taught her to smile through humiliation, saying, When the storm refuses to stop, walk through the rain with your head high. It was during the 3rd year that the first strange things began to happen. Sometimes, Ngozi would wake in the night feeling her belly tighten, as though labor had begun. But before dawn, the feeling would vanish. Other nights, she swore she could hear faint sounds, like a heartbeat that wasn't hers, or whispers she couldn't explain. One afternoon, she fainted by the stream while fetching water. The women who found her said she had spoken while unconscious, murmuring words they couldn't understand. Time crawled like a wounded snail. The world changed around them. Children were born and grew into school age, people married, old men died, but Ngozi remained the same. Her belly neither shrank nor burst. Her face aged slightly, but her strength remained strange and steady. Emeka's business nearly collapsed because he refused to travel far from home, always afraid something might happen while he was gone. His friends told him to remarry, but he refused to listen. "How can I take another wife when this one has carried my soul in her womb for years?" he would say. As the years dragged on and her belly still refused to open, Ngozi's heart grew wearied. Every morning she woke with swollen eyes. Every night, she wept until her pillow was wet. The first few years she had prayed with confidence, but by the fifth, her prayers began to sound like cries of confusion. "God, did I offend you? What sin did I commit that you gave me this burden?" she whispered in the dark. The walls of their hut had heard those words so many times they seemed to echo them back in silence. Sometimes she would crawl to the corner of the room, clutching her belly, rocking herself slowly as though begging the child to listen. "My baby, please come out. I am tired of carrying you. Please, come out and let me breathe." Emeka had changed too. His hair had begun to thin. His shoulders drooped from the endless weight of worry, but still he stayed. At first, he had been strong, hopeful, encouraging. But over time, his strength began to fade. He no longer sang on his way to the farm. His laughter, once loud and warm, had become rare. Yet even in silence, he refused to walk away. At night, when Ngozi cried, he would sit beside her and hold her hand. Sometimes he had no words. He would just sit there, staring at the flicker of the lantern while tears rolled down his face too. "Ngozi," he whispered one night, "I don't know what to say anymore. I'm tired, but I will not leave you. Even if this pain never ends, I'll be here until my last breath." The whispering nights. The nights were the hardest. When the whole village was asleep, Ngozi's sobs filled the air. Even the crickets seemed to pause as if listening. Sometimes, she would step outside, lift her face to the stars, and whisper into the night, "God, why is my own different? Women give birth every day, even the careless ones, even those who don't pray. What did I do wrong? Why can't you remember me?" Her voice would break, and she would fall to her knees, pressing her hands on the earth. Emeka often followed her out, covering her with his wrapper, kneeling beside her. "Don't curse your life, my wife," he said softly. "I don't understand it either, but maybe there's something great waiting at the end of this pain." She would look at him through her tears and whisper, "You still believe that?" He nodded weakly. "I have nothing else to believe." The burden of the village. Their suffering had become a silent wound the whole village felt. Some neighbors brought food, others came to pray. But after years of no change, even sympathy began to turn into pity. When people saw Emeka at the market, they sighed and said quietly, "That man has suffered. How can a woman carry pregnancy for so many years?" Some even told him to remarry. "You're still young, Emeka. Find another wife and have peace." But he always shook his head. "If I leave her now, what kind of man would I be?" His faith in her became the only light she had left. The breaking point. By the 7th year, Ngozi could no longer recognize herself. Her back hurt constantly, her legs were swollen, and her body trembled from exhaustion. She stopped going to church. She stopped going to the stream. Even her laughter had vanished. One night, she told Emeka in a broken voice, "Maybe I should die, Emeka. Maybe if I die, this child will finally come out." He fell to his knees, grabbed her hands, and wept openly. "Don't say that. Don't you ever say that again. If you die, what will I live for? Ngozi, please don't let despair win. I know it's hard, but hold on, even if it's just a little longer." She wept into his chest that night, both of them shaking, both of them praying silently for an end to the pain. A prayer in the dark. That same night, something shifted. After Emeka fell asleep beside her, Ngozi knelt one more time on the cold floor. Her body was weak, her voice trembling, but she whispered one last prayer. "God, if this suffering must continue, then give me the strength to carry it. But if it is time, if my child's time has come, let my body open, even if it costs my life. Let me see this child before I close my eyes forever." And when she lay down, For the first time in years, she slept peacefully, as though heaven had finally heard her cry. It was deep in the night, when the moon hid behind clouds and the whole village slept. A wind rose from the east, carrying dust and the smell of rain. Inside the small hut, Ngozi suddenly woke with a scream. Not of fear, but of pain. For the first time in years, her body trembled with a force she could not resist. Her hands clutched her belly as a wave of pain ran through her spine. "Emeka!" she shouted. He jumped from the mat, eyes wide. The look on her face told him everything. "It's happening," she gasped. "I can feel it. The pain. It's different this time." The cry of the heavens. He ran into the night, pounding on doors, shouting for help. "Mama Udoka, please, come quickly, it's time." Within minutes, the old midwives arrived with lamps and towels. The wind howled through the thatched roof, lightning flashed across the sky, and thunder rolled like drums from the spirit world. Everyone in the compound knew. After years of waiting, the woman of endless pregnancy was finally in labor. The midwives surrounded her, whispering prayers and chanted, "Breathe, my daughter. Push slowly, yes, that's it." Ngozi screamed until her voice broke. She had carried this child for almost a decade, and now her body fought with all the strength left in her. The struggle. The hours passed like days. Emeka knelt outside, trembling, tears streaming down his face as he prayed aloud. "God, please, don't take her from me. Let her live, even if the child must go. Just spare her life." The midwives worked in silence, their faces pale in the lamplight. Ngozi's body shook violently. She gripped one woman's arm until it bled. Then, just before dawn, a deep cry burst from her throat. One final push, one final effort, and the hut fell silent. The child. Mama Udoka lifted the baby gently and froze. The child was beautiful, full-sized, skin smooth and unwrinkled, fingers curled tightly, but motionless. No breath, no cry, only silence. "Is it alive?" Ngozi asked weakly, struggling to lift her head. The midwife didn't answer. Tears fell silently from her eyes as she wrapped the child in a clean cloth. When Emeka rushed in, the women moved aside. He saw his child for the first time, strong, perfect, but still. He knelt beside his wife, unable to speak. Ngozi stared at the cloth, her lips trembling. "He's not breathing, is he?" Mama Udoka shook her head slowly. For a long time, there was no sound except Ngozi's sobbing. Freedom and sorrow. As dawn broke, the first light fell on the couple. Exhausted, broken, but alive. Emeka held Ngozi close, whispering through his tears. "You did it. You fought for 9 years. You are free now, my love. You are free." She looked at the lifeless bundle beside her and whispered faintly, "So this is what freedom feels like. Pain and peace mixed together." Outside, the villagers had gathered quietly, waiting for news. When the midwives stepped out, their faces said it all. Some wept, some crossed themselves, others simply bowed their heads in silence. After 99 moons, the womb that refused to let go had finally released its secret. The dawn after the storm. Later that morning, the child was buried under the old mango tree behind their hut. Emeka dug the grave himself, refusing to let anyone else touch the ground. Ngozi watched from the doorway, her hands clasped together, her face calm. When he was done, he walked to her slowly. She looked up at him and managed a small, weary smile. "He is gone, Emeka, but I can finally breathe again." He nodded, holding her face in his hands. "Yes, my wife. The child sleeps, but you live. That is enough for me." Epilogue of the night. That evening, the wind was quiet. The stars returned, shining softly over Umyuk. Ngozi sat outside, staring at the sky, her heart torn but light for the first time in years. She whispered to the heavens, "Lord, thank you. Not because the child lived, but because you set me free." And as the breeze brushed her face, she thought she heard a faint, gentle cry, not from the earth but from beyond. A promise that some lives, though brief, still leave their light behind. For many days after the burial, the house felt like an empty shell. No babies cry, no visitors, no laughter. Only the soft sound of the wind moving through the mango tree where the little mound of earth rested. Ngozi stayed indoors most of the time, sitting on the same mat where she had labored. Her eyes no longer wept. They were simply hollow, as if all the tears in her body had run dry. She hardly spoke. When neighbors brought food, she nodded her thanks but barely ate. At night, she would wake suddenly, reaching for her stomach out of habit. Then remember it was flat again. Sometimes she touched it gently, whispering, "You carried me for 9 years. Now you are empty." A husband's quiet strength. Emeka tried to be strong, but grief clung to him like dust. He spent most of his days near the mango tree, sitting on the small stone he had placed beside the grave. He would trace the child's name he had carved on a small wooden cross, Chisholm. "God is with me." When the village men came to comfort him, he only said, "God gives, God takes. Let his name remain." But at night, when he thought Ngozi was asleep, he would cry quietly, pressing his face into the mat so she wouldn't hear. Even so, he never left her side. He cooked, swept, and fetched water. When she sat in silence, he sat beside her in silence too. When she refused food, he ate little himself, saying, "If you will not eat, then I won't either." The village's compassion. The people of Umuk mourned with them. The women came in groups to sing soft hymns. The men helped repair the roof that had almost collapsed during the storm that night. For once, there were no whispers, no fear, no gossip, only sympathy. Many said, "She has suffered more than anyone should. Let peace return to her house." Mama Udoka visited often, bringing herbs to help Ngozi regain strength. "You lost much blood," she told her gently. "But you are alive. The world still needs you here." The healing days. Gradually, the world began to move again. The cock crowed. The sun rose. Life demanded to be lived. Emeka returned to his palm wine tapping, though he no longer sang while he worked. Ngozi started sitting outside in the evenings, watching children play, their laughter floating like wind chimes. It hurt at first, but over time, she found comfort in it. One afternoon, she told her husband quietly, "Maybe God knew I could not bear to raise a child that would remind me of all those years. Maybe that's why he took him gently." Emeka nodded. "Or maybe he knew that even in loss, you would teach others what strength looks like." Faith reborn. Weeks turned into months. The grief didn't vanish, but it softened, like a wound slowly closing. They began to go back to church together. The pastor spoke gently during service. Sometimes, deliverance does not come in the form we expect. Sometimes freedom itself is the miracle. Ngozi held Emeka's hand tightly. She understood those words. Her body, once a prison, was free. Her heart, once drowning in shame, now breathed again. The new beginning. By the next harvest season, she returned to the market with her small tray of roasted plantain. People greeted her with warmth and respect. Some still called her Nne Moons, the mother of 99 moons, but now it was no longer a name of pity. It was a title of honor. When she smiled again for the first time, Emeka said softly, "That smile! I thought I would never see it again." She looked at him and replied, "Maybe it took 9 years for my soul to give birth to peace. Thanks for watching. Kindly like, share with friends, and subscribe for more amazing stories."